Welcome back to the Tuesday weekend. We are talking today about menus and running specials and recipe testing, which I think is one of the actually fun parts of having a creative job in the kitchen. And I do want to start this segment just by throwing out to the world the notion that some of the best food in the kitchen never leaves the kitchen. That
Nice.
what chefs cook up for themselves, just trying things, just seeing how it goes, is sometimes the best food. And really, there's some of that we want to share. There's some of that we keep for ourselves. Anyway, Nick was starting a point on balancing recipes in, well, in his case, beverages, but it works on plates too. But we're going to start on the bar.
So yeah, I mean, balancing flavors and stuff, and like Trae should be able to really get in on this as well for what he does. You want a balanced cocktail. You don't want it to be too tart. You don't want it to be too sweet. You want that to even out. I was recently handed a new sub menu while we're redoing the bar in our hotel this fall, just to get us through to that point before we put on the actual drinks and stuff we really want to do. And there's some good cocktails on there, but I had to go through and balance over half of them. Where like, here's the ingredients, and I made it, and I was like, no, that's not going to work. That's too sweet. That's too tart. So just trial and error, knowing what ingredients you're using makes it a little bit easier. But still, you want to take a sip and be like, that's really good, instead of, now if someone says they want, say, a mojito, like I like my mojito sweeter, no problem. You can add a little extra simple syrup, extra sugar, or even extra Sprite while you're making the drink to make it sweeter. If they want it tart, then you add more lime juice. You can customize any drink specifically to someone's taste. It's really easy to do, but you want to start out just at a baseline. You don't want to be too high on one end or the other, sweet or tart.
Yeah.
So as a follow-up to what you just said, how often do you use sugar as opposed to simple syrup to sweeten something up?
Ooh.
Right now, using several different syrups. The only thing we use sugar for right now is a rim. I don't add sugar to a drink. I've got regular simple syrup. I've got Demerara simple syrup. I also have honey syrup. So I've got 3 different ways and 3 different styles of sweetness that I can add to different drinks. You're going to hear a lot of people as well say agave nectar. I'm not really a big fan of it because most of the agave nectar, and I'd say in the 90 percentiles, right around, is just corn syrup that's flavored, and that it really, it's just a syrup. A simple syrup is a syrup with water. A honey syrup is a syrup with water. Regular syrup, when it gets cold, kind of gets really hard and doesn't mix into your drink, and that's what agave nectar is. It's just, it sits at the bottom of your drink in a brown little lump, and then I guess you get a bonus candy at the end of your cocktail if you get all the way to the bottom.
Hooray!
Yay, that's fantastic. But yeah, we hardly use raw sugar anymore for cocktails. Just expediency and mess.
Right.
Anytime you're using the sugar, you've got to. We'll talk about it in the old-fashioned episode, but there is soda and even a regular old-fashioned when you use raw sugar, because you have to dissolve that sugar. And without muddling it and stirring it for like 20 minutes, it's just going to stay granular, because especially raw white sugar doesn't dissolve at all. It takes a long time, especially in cold.
Well, and for anyone unfamiliar with the recipe for simple syrup, 1 part water, 1 part sugar, bring to a simmer. Let it cool.
That is it.
That is why it's called simple. Yes, you can mess it up. Though I've
worked with people who do that.
Right.
They're like, I make my simple syrup different, and I'm like,
Why?
so throw it away, and we're going to make it right now. There's no difference.
I have worked with a bartender who did almost let the sugar start to caramelize, just start to get that little bit of color. After you have to boil it for 10, 12 minutes. It takes a while to get there. But it was also
a super saturated solution, which is dumb.
Yeah.
Or he could have just used Demerara sugar and been done with it.
Yeah. I haven't worked with him for a while. I wonder if he's still into that.
Yeah, just don't use the raw ingredients anymore, really. I mean, some places still do. It just depends on where you work. What do you use for sweetness in all the ice cream?
Our ice cream, we start with, because we don't pasteurize on site, we partner with our dairy to do the pasteurization. So they are using sugar in that pasteurization process, but that means you're heating that milk up to a temperature to kill all that stray bacteria, which means the sugar is going to melt really nice. But then with that, when we're kind of making syrups or making, you know, a fudge, we have one ice cream that we do use just granular sugar, and in our sorbets we use granular sugar, and the churning action of the ice cream machine kind of makes it go together just fine. You don't end up with a grainy texture in the ice cream, but it is kind of 15 minutes of agitation pushing that sugar around, which does make that difference.
Yeah, when the simple syrups or any of the syrups are made incorrectly, you can see it. As soon as you pick the bottle up, it's like, okay, this is separating. It's wrong. That I got to throw this away and make a new one real quick.
Crystallizing.
Because it's like I have to make that drink now, and this isn't right. Yeah, just the sugar stuff alone. Just it's also easier to measure a liquid than a solid.
Oh yes.
Yep.
I mean, like using a sugar cube is the same as using about a bar spoon of sugar. And then if you use like the different sugars, there's going to be different levels of sweetness depending on what that sugar is. It's also going to really affect the flavor that you get in every single drink. Doing the syrup way, the consistency you get is well worth it. Where every single thing you put out is going to have the same amount of simple syrup, the same amount of this, the same amount of this, the same amount of this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it tastes proper. And like I said, if you need to make it sweeter, need to make it a little less sweet, you can do that just on your mix right there as you're making the drink. It's not going to be an end of the world type of, oh no, I have to reinvent the wheel to make this drink properly.
Well, and on the food end of it, there are really 3 different ways that I came to whatever my daily special was, because in places that I've worked, had to come up with both a lunch and a dinner special every day. And sure, sometimes you can run the special for 2 days in a row, but really we had enough regulars that they know it, had enough business people that would come back for 2 or 3 lunches out of the week that, you know, they don't want to see the same thing Thursday that they saw on Tuesday.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so basically there are three ways that I would come to it. Sometimes I would wake up with that special fully formed in my mind, and I knew what I wanted, and that's what I was going to make that day because that's what I felt like making. Sometimes it was my rep from one of my food distributors saying, hey, I have this elk tenderloin. Hey, I've got this other really cool thing, because he knew that I liked all of the weird game meats and that I could sell those to my crowd, where the guys up on Main Street would have a tougher time doing that. And sometimes the special was actually looking through the walk-in and seeing what needs to get used up. And rarely it's that, but sometimes.
That's a lot of bar specials. It's like, hey, we need to get rid of this pomegranate vodka. Okay. Come up with a cocktail. Okay.
Okay.
I mean,
that's a lot of specials in general.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's shoot from the fish guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, special on halibut today? Fantastic. Let's do halibut. Yeah, I also do have a bottle of a mint cucumber vodka that
is from Kettle One and has a very, very strong fragrance and a very, very light flavor. To the point where even if you do it with a soda, you're almost muting the flavor, and it's just kind of a muddled mess when you take a sip. That one?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, it was a nice bold effort, but then they backed off on the flavors because they were going mainstream and just kind of lost it. If it tasted the way it smelled, it would be fantastic.
Sure. Well, and I don't want to tell a big, successful multinational corporation what to do with their signature brand, but you know that normal one you make, that's pretty popular just on its own.
Yeah.
Maybe just stick to that.
It doesn't matter anymore. All we sell is Tito's.
Sure. Yeah.
Like we're down to 3 vodkas, Tito's, Grey Goose, and Belvedere. Once a month, someone asks for Kettle One, but it's always, vodka soda and like Tito's. And I'm all, okay. We have 4. Our house is actually Absolute. And that's something interesting that we're doing with the higher end house stuff. I mean, that's when you start stepping into your drink price just went up at least 30 to 50 cents just because of the different alcohol for a vodka soda, which is possibly the cheapest. Any just soda mix is the cheapest drink you can make with your house.
Sure.
The cost and such that we were talking about when making a menu and all that should be figured in. But when you raise your house level without raising your drink price, you're losing a little bit of money. When you do our current drink menu, which uses all name brand alcohols, which you kind of need in a hotel. You can't really do the well stuff like a lot of craft bars. They're just using their house. They're just using their Evan Williams. They're just using whatever, tequila they have that they're using for their house. And that's how you make those expensive ingredient drinks. What we're doing right now is the same thing, except for my drinks cost the same as a shot of the alcohol that's in them.
Wow.
So I'm doing a $16 mezcal margarita, and the mezcal alone costs $16 a shot. And that margarita also has Cointreau in it, and that margarita also has, you know, fresh lime juice in it, and so on and so forth. That's a problem.
Yes.
As I see it. I mean, we're also not overpowered on our prices, especially for the city I'm in. We do a Macallan 18 for $40. And a lot of people in the rest of the country are like, wow, that's expensive. And I'm like, no, down here they go for 95 to 130 for a shot. It's a $300 bottle. At $40 a shot, we're breaking even. That's not what your alcohol is there for in your restaurant and bar. Your alcohol is there to push your profits, to make your money. Like you've said, Josh, if we break close to even on the food, great.
Yes. People should understand, even successful restaurants, the profit margin on the food generally is pretty slim. And we'll get back to the math thing in the next segment. But liquor sales really is where you're making a lot of it. Or for the places without a liquor license, the sodas. The markup on beverages, and that's why it costs $3 for 15 cents worth of Coke Zero, because the restaurant needs to make their money somewhere.
Yeah.
But in fact, how about we take another break, and when we come back, everyone's favorite topic, math.
Yeah.
All right.
Yay.
Stay tuned.
Do math in my head.